Hello, welcome to today's class. Today I have for you a sequence that is designed to help if you're suffering from sciatica. There are of course a number of different causes for sciatica, but hopefully some of these postures will help to alleviate some of the immediate symptoms of that kind of nerve pain. So when you're ready, meet me lying down on your back. So we're going to be starting with our knees bent, our feet flat on the floor, and we really want to make sure that the whole of our back is in contact with the mat, so including the lower back. So we don't want to be arching up. We want to be tucking the tailbone. So think of if you've seen a dog at the zoomies and they tuck their tails underneath them, that's what we're kind of going for. So we really want to go from this to this, and you should then feel that your lower back becomes flush with the mat. So the lower spinal column comes into contact with the mat. So maybe you have to play around with it if that's a new feeling to you. But once you get there, we're then going to place our palms right on the very top of the thighs here, and start to push our arms into our thighs. Now I've got really long arms, so this is quite accessible for me. If you've got shorter arms, then maybe you need to place something between the hand and the thigh, like a yoga block or a book would be perfect. So when you've found a comfortable way of doing this, we really want to be pushing, and we're pushing quite hard into the thighs. And maybe you'll start to feel a very subtle sensation of lengthening through the lower back. And we're just going to breathe here. Making sure we're not arching through the back, keeping that connection. Great. Release the arms, and we're going to lift the legs up into the air. If you have particularly tight hamstrings, the knees can have a small bend in them, but if you can, really try and straighten the legs. The legs can be at an angle, but if you can, we kind of want to stack the knees and the feet over the hips. That might be really challenging depending on what your flexibility is, but just try. And from here, we are just going to point and flex the feet. So the palms can be pushing down into the mat. They can be just supporting the legs if that helps you, and try and keep the legs as straight as you can. Just stretching, flexing, and pointing the toes. And here we're just really trying to mobilize the sciatic nerve. So you might have heard of nerve flossing. So that's what we're trying to do. I won't go into the details here, as this is meant to be a short flow. Great. From here, we're going to bend the knees again, and we're going to cross the right leg over the top of the left leg. And then we're going to try and draw the feet in towards the body so that we might be able to catch the feet with the hands. If you can get here, we then want to try and draw the feet in up to the point where you're really feeling a stretch through the piriformis. And this is a muscle that crosses the sciatic nerve. So if we have tightness or any kind of inflammation in the piriformis, that can create some of the symptoms of sciatica, and that's definitely something that my sciatica stems from. So this is supine cow face pose, or supta gomukhasana, and this is one of the best stretches for really getting into the deep gluteal muscles and the piriformis that can give a lot of aggro to our sciatic nerve. So take 2 more breaths here and then we'll switch the legs. Great, gently releasing the feet, and then we're going to switch so that the left leg crosses over the right. We're bending the knees, trying to draw the feet far enough towards the body that we can catch the toes or the feet, and then start to pull them in until you start to feel that stretch in the buttocks, basically, kind of the top of the buttocks. This might be a new area that you're stretching, so it might be quite uncomfortable. But hopefully if you keep practicing this stretch, this is a really wonderful one for releasing or relieving some of that sciatic nerve pain. It's definitely my go-to when my sciatic pain starts to flare up. This is the one that I find really, really helps me. Great. Release the feet gently. If you fancy joining me in some rock and rolls up, I really like it for my back. I find it feels really good, but it might be a bit too much if you're very sensitive in the back. So just meet me in a cross-legged position. From here, we're going to straighten the legs out in front of us, but we're going to keep a real generous bend in the knees here. Inhaling, lifting the arms up overhead, and exhaling to fold forwards. Maybe you can catch the toes, or if you have a strap or an item of clothing that you can loop around the feet. And here, we're not really going for the hamstrings. Here, we are really trying to round the lower back. So we want to try and draw our bellies towards our thighs. Letting the head hang heavy. And sending our breath and our awareness down to that lower back. And with each breath, picturing a little bit more space opening up there. Inhale to lift back up. We are just going to swing the legs around to one side to come into a tabletop position. And then we're going to lift the right knee up off the floor and draw the right foot up towards the right hand on the outside of the hand, so the toes over towards the edge of the mat to come into lizard. You can just walk the back knee back down the mat so that we can start to sink the hips down, so really opening up through the left, the front of the left hip, through the hip flexor, and also feeling it in the front of the groin on the right hand side as well. From here, we are going to walk the right foot over towards the left hand side of the mat and sink the right knee down to come into pigeon, but we're going to draw the left leg up. So the left knee is bent, the toes are pointing down the mat. So we're coming into a pigeon variation here. So here in this variation, we can get the right shin much more parallel to the front of the mat. So the weight is going to be on the right seat bone. We're going to inhale to lengthen through the spine, and then exhale to walk the hands gently forward. Maybe we come down to the forearms, adjust as needed, but we're not trying to get the left seat bone down to the mat in any way. We are sitting on the right hand side, but this variation just means that we can get into the piriformis and the hip flexors a little bit more than in the more traditional variation, depending on your level of flexibility, of course. Inhale to come back up. We're going to send that left leg back down the mat, pushing through the palms to lift back up into a tabletop position. Then moving to the left side, so lifting the left knee off the floor, drawing that left foot up to the outside of the left hand to come into lizard. Maybe you just need to walk that right knee back down the mat a little bit to deepen the stretch, but take whatever modification that you need to in this pose. I'm a big proponent of making each pose your own. So if you want to move a little bit, like I just very naturally started rocking my hips because that feels really nice. If you want to come down onto the forearm, whatever variation of this pose that you think, oh, actually that feels really good, or yeah, oh, I can't quite manage that today. Make it your own. On your next inhale, we're going to lift up through the hips, just to create a little bit of space to walk that left foot over to the right hand side of the mat so we can sink down into a pigeon, but bending the right knee to draw it up so that the knee and the hip are about in line with each other. The shin is parallel with the edge of your mat, and then the left shin is parallel with the front edge of your mat, if that makes sense. It's a lot of shins and parallels and left and rights. Inhaling here to lengthen up through the spine, and exhale, maybe you can sink forward onto the forearms. Inhaling to push back up, and this time we are just going to draw the right leg back, out in front of us. So both legs are now out in front, and we're just going to gently roll down to our backs, drawing the knees up to the chest, give them a squeeze. Maybe rocking side to side just to massage the top of the glutes where the SI joints are. Coming back into center, we're going to draw the knees over the hand side to come into a supine twist. You can open the left arm out to also get a twist, to deepen that twist in the upper back. And breathe here. If you want to take it a little bit further, you can catch the with the hand, straightening the leg. That gets quite intense, so take it really easy depending on how you feel today. Inhaling drawing the knees back up to center and let them fall over to the left hand side, opening out through the right arm. Maybe you extend the leg out to the side as well to deepen this stretch. Inhale to lift back up through center. And then for our Sukhasana, I would really recommend to take something like a blanket, or if you have a bolster, or I've just got a rolled up jumper here, to put underneath the knees if you have lower back pain. This can be really nice in Savasana. Just means that you can get your lower back in contact with the mat so you're not arching too much. This is a great one to do in bed as well. So letting the toes just fall out to the side, snuggling the shoulder blades underneath the back body, palms facing up, and closing down the eyes. Letting your breath be in a very relaxed, natural rhythm. Feeling your body sinking down into the earth, feeling really heavy. Depending on how much time you have, feel free to stay here in Savasana for as long as you need. Wiggling the fingers and the toes. Gently, with your eyes still closed, draw the knees up towards the chest. Give yourself a hug. Rolling onto the right hand side. Pressing back up to seated. Inhaling, lifting the arms up overhead. palms come together, drawing them down to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Taking one last deep inhale here. And exhaling deeply as we bow our heads to our hands. Namaste.